Ho'oponopono. Ho'oponopono. Jai Bhagwan. Aho. Ho, ho, ho. Good day. Welcome aboard. Thank you so much for joining us. Gather around, hold hands, do as you wish. Listen to your breath, listen to the ocean, listen to what Ho'oponopono. Thank you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. Ho'oponopono. I do think Ho'oponopono helps more than saying each part, but I do think that it's important too to recognize what part of Ho'oponopono is so true to you. Are we saying I'm sorry to God? Are we saying I'm sorry to myself? Are we listening to your breath would help? Are you sighing with angry? Are you full of relief? And then what are you in denial of? What is there that you are trying to call it something else and get away from the feeling with doing people, places, and things, seeking outside of the self, seeking sense gratification, seeking fruit to your actions, doing something only with the intention of getting something back, loving only to get loved back? This is not what true love is. For example, focus on a subject that you really love. Maybe it's math, like private ceremony sessions, and available. Choose, yes, when the student is ready, the teacher will present itself. As I have been presented with the many teachers before me, I am always eager to serve equally as I have received. All that I have received upon my plate, I would love for you to eat. I would love for you to drink, for you to feast, and truly have access to this illumination or this new framework of mind instead of looking through the eyes of selfishness or abandonment or depression, letting our framework come from a place of not loneliness or separation or segregation or prejudice or there's another word that I'm looking for. Starts with a D. It's almost like degrading, but it's not degrading. But it's like you isolate certain groups or categories of people, and like you depreciate them through your judgments or your stories. It's kind of like prejudice. I may think of the word at another time, but my lack of memory of it makes me feel like it's really important. I will remember it. It's come to me before. Discrimination. Finally. Discrimination. Yes. Harass, abuse, judgment without truly even caring to take care of the specimen to let it live its best life. Not giving it junk food or poor nutrients. Giving it sunlight. Giving it water. Giving it proper washing on itself. many shadows, and there's many injuries to infancy, and that seems to be a very common theme for me in my work right now. And there are many who are very conscious of things that happen to them in their innocence, and it's amazing how the body never forgets too. However, that can also be very traumatic, or I guess the appropriate term for that may be somatic, but I'm not fully educated what soma and somatic and all these things. I'm still learning. I'm at the tip of the iceberg in these things. I have recently been reached out to by individuals who genuinely enjoy to write papers and to teach. Sometimes they call themselves homework slaves. I would definitely love more information. So if you are called, feel free to just send me random education, especially on subjects that I'm seeking interest of. You can only imagine the historical significance of discrimination and how deep these parallel bonds go. And another common theme on top of the infancy is the slavery, ownership over other souls, what they do, what they think, especially the sexual parts, where people want to own and control and dictate and dominate, the manipulation, the force, the control, the lack of consideration, the lack of autonomy, I wish I had more childlike terms to share, this realm of subconscious indoctrination, and a lot of times there's hypocrisy, right? Hypocrisy, meaning it's okay that I do it, but if you do it, or I really don't like that you do that because I do that and it reminds me of this or that. It's the shadow aspect. Slavery can be expressed in many ways. Slavery can be when your partner is telling you what to do, when to be home, or that you can't have any privacy or trust, or I don't know, there's so many shadows of that, right? It can even be your parents, or your siblings, or just your peers, right? Even the peers pushing you to wear a mask or get a vaccine. I mean, there's so many different levels of it, of just you know what I mean? I feel almost every human experiences that at least once in their life, where someone's trying to tell them what to do, and then deep down in your soul, you know, you do not want to do this thing. It is not you, it is not your path. And sometimes we walk that path and we behave that way, and we perform in those ways, and it's not our true self. And sometimes we can be angry at others because they allowed us to not be our true self, so they don't really know ourselves. Maybe encouraging us to step outside of ourselves, but it's important for us to stay true to ourselves. If you really love being underwater in clothes, or if you like running around naked in nature, I mean, little things, right? If you don't like to trim your toenails, you don't like to cut your hair, I think that every individual is sovereign. I can't think of any other word other than that. Precious. It's precious. It's delicate. It's one of a kind. The snowflake is priceless. And I don't believe that any human being has the right to really say that no, that you can't live here, or you can't have this food. It doesn't seem fair, or there's some type of need to wake up from a sleeping state of separation and segregation, and that there's not enough, this scarcity mentality. And I empathize with it because it's so culturally and culturally, but it's a cult, right? It's culture, this indoctrination, or the subconscious brainwashing of poverty consciousness, or that money makes me valuable, when really, like, money is like a physical representation of like the hard labor that I have just performed. It's something that is traded back, and perhaps it's just for the time being. I do firmly believe in different like quantum mechanic type like subliminal belief systems, like how time doesn't exist, or like the like multiversions. There's another word for it, like a doppelganger. It's frustrating sometimes when it's difficult to be understood, or like when it's difficult to find those who have an open mind that are able to receive these ideas and then to like regurgitate, mirror, or reflect, or like shine back other additional ideas where these ideas can be further played upon, or that a co-creation can be formed. Like, for example, it's come to my attention that there was an orca who was here in Washington who was kidnapped, I guess, when it was little. And it's been brought to this aquarium in Florida. And it was also brought to my attention that this specimen was offered for $1 million, and still they refused to let them go. And the person who has informed me of this is someone very special to me, and they touched my heart today when they showed another part of their character, expressing how it would be meaningful to them if we could bring that whale back to like the exact, like, I want to say ocean, or like part of the water that we were looking at together. And like I really felt it, like the emptiness and like the beauty that it would be if like this whale was to return to this exact harbor, and that it was like a sacred space for it to like swim and just exist. I'm mentioning this because it had come to my attention that, much like the 6 degrees of separation, that there are ways to like really make things happen, and that we really have more power than we give ourselves credit when we say that we are less than, or sometimes it goes the other way where we try to empower ourselves and say that we are more than we really are. However, we know in our heart, without the story, without the speaking or the narrative or sharing that story, and just really feeling what we are instead of labeling, judging, analyzing, categorizing, and again creating the separation. An important topic has also been how important it is to realize how our thoughts are really not important. Like, we want to like remember when we forget things, but the lesson that was taught to me by my beloved teacher is that I am to remind myself that this thought is just a thought, and it is not important. There is no need to obsess on these thoughts, especially if these thoughts are like continuously causing emotional reaction, and emotional reactions that aren't pleasant. It's been a great practice of mindfulness and meditation. It can be like a little nauseating though when you're actually like processing and digesting everything that you have experienced. And it can be draining when you're constantly obsessively trying to put it into narrative. So that can also be difficult. But sometimes putting things into narrative, at least for me, really, really helps to process things. But again, that the way that I'm framing it, or that I'm viewing it, isn't always accurate. And it's very possible for me to be delusional and to stuck in like my feeling and witnessing self, judging, all those things, right? Like saying, this is green, or this person is rejecting me, or the story. I have this obsessive new interest in communications. I've always kind of been into communications and like working with pen pals and just like having friends all over the world. And I've always had great interest in traveling the world. And I've recently made an investment in a book on communication. I'm very, very excited to work with this book. I will show you the book as soon as I receive it. I've kind of already indulged on Amazon. However, I feel like a lot of the things are going to be very beneficial and useful to the journey because they'll be like educational material, which can also function as entertainment and also material that I can share with others. So if I'm not like reading that book at the time, another individual can gain access to those references if that's where they're at in their state of being able to receive information at this time. And by it being in my home or my vortex or within my vicinity, I will have permission to choose to engage with this material and choose to activate these parts of thought and feeling and changing my mental state to like a different inner narrator as well. The harder I am trying to quiet the narrator and to like quiet the ego or the talker, sometimes it just gets louder. And that can be frustrating. Because sometimes it's not saying anything, it's just really, really loud. Kind of like how the pain in our bodies can become really, really loud and very difficult to like walk or bend our knee or do a certain yoga posture. But I think that the story that we tell in our heads about whether or not we can do the exercise or whether or not we can go on, I think that's very important, especially like what we actually believe. Like again, honoring the feelings and stepping into feeling and being and less like storytelling. And this can be overwhelming for like people who are totally like not aware of these ways of reshaping your brain. But like when you start to notice like these unhealthy thoughts or like patterns, I don't know, for me it's just been like a personal addiction to kind of like notice the cognitive distortions and then to like consciously work through these cognitive distortions and to name them. Like this one's mind reading, or this is all or nothing thinking. This is discounting the positives. But it can be like slightly humiliating or just uncomfortable to like accept the self where it's at. Like, oh man, that I am here, or I'm feeling this way, I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm uncomfortable. And sometimes those words, like, they're not justice, they don't really explain what you're trying to say. But maybe it's like kind of like that. Kind of like anger, but it's not quite anger. Maybe it's like grief or distraught. Chaos, stress, negativity, simplicity. I'm certainly in need of like a recharge and some like positive energy and maybe like a salt bath, maybe like a massage. That definitely comes to mind like as soon as possible, maybe like somewhere around the 20th. I will attempt to regather and to share more at a time that I can. I am in the middle of processing a lot of information. I'm in a manifestation class and attempting to really figure out what I really, really want. And then, like, you know, giving myself positive narratives so that we can continue attempting to get these appropriate things. And some of it is like giving myself permission to have, and some of it is like an uncertainty, you know, of what's for me. So I like to hold a lot of space, and I like to see miracles happen. And I'm a big believer of miracles, and it actually is. My main thing that came up on my spiritual gifts test at church, it was craftsmanship and miracles. And so that was really beautiful for me to experience, because I've had certainly many, 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 many miracles in my life. And I've witnessed a lot of miracles for other people and for people who didn't think that they would survive diseases, or they didn't think this, and they really gave themselves and their all to a higher power, or they just gave themselves to the universe. They just finally surrendered instead of fighting themselves the whole way. I do believe focusing on the vibrational aspect does help, but it does sound a little woo-woo, right? But we're all making noise and we're all moving. So I don't know. I always hear the message to share of encouraging Abraham Hicks, and for you to pick a topic and put it next to Abraham Hicks, toxic relationships or gambling or cheating, or I don't know. Make clear your boundaries. I'm on an adventure, and it's kind of fun to explore. But I am gonna have to get out of here. I apologize. I'm not giving you my undivided attention. I'm not superiorly grounded or anywhere super duper hydrating, I guess, right? I need to recharge my batteries. But I am very grateful for those of you who have been reaching out and who have been really, really clear and just affectionate and just speaking with your actions. I honor you so much being present with me, and all the love you show me through without the story part. And I have to admit my adoration for the words that are written to me or spoken to me. It's very, 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 very beautiful and very, very empowering. It helps me to continue sometimes when things get really, really rough and excruciating. So thank you for holding space and having so much compassion and understanding and being so willing. I do plan on doing some live ceremonies here where we're sharing sound baths. I think sound bath is good. I'm also called to go further into the plant baths and things like that, and talk about this bathhouse that I'd really like to see come to life. But again, let me get out of here. I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. Ho'oponopono. Take care of yourself. Breathe in and out. It's okay. Until next time.